All right, so has anybody ever told you about the time that Daniel Boone supposedly killed a Bigfoot? So here's the deal. If you don't know who Daniel Boone is, he was just this general frontiersman guy. He was born in 1734. So if you think about that, it was kind of the time before even the Revolutionary War. And we still really only had 13 colonies. Him and people like him found passes through the Appalachian Mountains like the Cumberland Gap and allowed settlers to get to the western part of the United States. So there was this historian in like the 1850s called Lyman Draper, and he collected stories of all of these guys through the Appalachian Mountains, and he put them into a big manuscript. So this guy was a pretty credible historian, and this is where the story comes from. Now, we know the story was told, we know it was recorded, we don't know if it was 100% true. But basically what happened is Daniel Boone woke up one morning and 2 of his horses were gone. So him and his son went to track the horses and the Native Americans that they thought had stolen those horses. Well, they traveled quite a ways. We think they were pretty close to Lexington, Kentucky at the time. And eventually they crossed the river and found the Native Americans. Unfortunately, they found 500 of them and quickly decided that it was not worth their time or trouble to bring back just those 2 horses. So they turned around and started coming back. But they hadn't hunted for supplies for a while because they didn't want to warn the Native Americans that they were coming. So him and his son kind of split up. There was a large hill, and they each took one side of the hill and kind of walked the same pace so they could hear each other if there was a problem. And eventually, there very much was. Daniel Boone heard his son fire a couple shots off, but then he heard a 3rd shot, and he said that he could tell the shot was fired without a patch, which basically means his son rushed to load the gun and was basically firing in a panic. When Daniel Boone found him, Daniel Boone said there was a giant man attacking his son. The man came after his son, grabbed the gun, broke it in half, and then proceeded to grab his son and slam him to the ground twice. So Daniel Boone was hesitant to shoot at this thing because he didn't want to accidentally hit his son, but he also knew that if he didn't, that this thing was going to kill his kid. So he took a shot, he fired, and luckily the bullet went straight through this thing's left eye, and it stopped this thing. So once his son recovered, they took a minute to talk about what happened and what this thing was. Turns out the son had run into it while hunting and had shot it twice square in the chest. Well, they kind of did like a mini frontier autopsy on the thing and discovered, according to Boone, that it didn't have ribs. It just had like a solid plate down its chest. Daniel Boone also said it was about 10.5 feet tall with pale yellow skin and longish yellow fur. So he told this story multiple times in his life. And while he did not tell this story to Lyman Draper, he told it to a boy at a party. And then this boy was interviewed by Lyman Draper. The story is still pretty close to the source at that point. So I don't know. You tell me, what do you think? Do you think Daniel Boone actually killed a Bigfoot?